tools in Illustrator. First thing we're going to do is to place an image. So I'm going to click File and then go to Place. File, Place. And then I'm going to navigate to where my pictures are, and I have them here. So I'm going to start with this handwriting example. I'm going to click Place. My cursor has changed. The cursor is loaded and it says it's got one picture loaded, 1 out of 1. So I'm going to click, hold down the left mouse button and drag, and then when I'm ready I'm going to drop it. So this is a picture, it's got a frame around the outside. If I resize it, it's going to pancake it. I don't want to do that, but if I do need to resize it, I'm going to hold down Shift and it's going to maintain the aspect ratio. So this picture, one of the options will be to image trace. I have the Essentials toolkit shown and I'm under Properties. So if I click Image Trace, it's going to give me a whole bunch of options. I've got various different amounts of colors. I'm going to start with black and white logo, so that's going to hopefully recognize the red writing and the white whiteboard. I am a little concerned about the reflections in the background, so we'll click it and give it a go, see how that one works out. So initially it looks to be good except for part of the H where the reflection is and a little bit of the shadow down here. I've got a whole lot of settings that I can play with, so if I hover over this button to the right it says open the image trace panel. So I've got a whole lot of settings that I can muck about with, and one of them will be threshold. So if I drag that halfway across towards more, that clearly is not what I'm after. So I'm just going to drag it and keep adjusting until it finishes. So if I drag it too far this way, it's going to look too thin. So I think somewhere around here, and I may have to just fix up that H. And hey presto, it's ready to go, I think. A few more just little adjustments, something like that. So that's one example of how you might use this. So I'm going to put this up here. Now I want to get rid of some of these pieces, and I'm going to go expand. This is going to change it, and it's now a whole bunch of different shapes. Now this is a collection. They are all grouped, so I'm going to go Object, Ungroup. Object, Ungroup. So I'm going to see what I can select. I'm going to click on that and hit Delete. I don't think that understroke worked particularly well. I'm going to delete that, and I can also see when I'm hovering over the top there's some outlines. So that's probably telling me that there's actually a white background, which I'm going to click and delete that. So that's disappeared. There's probably a white shape inside this A. Unlikely to be one in the D because there's a gap. There will probably be one there, and I'll delete those. I've got no other letters that have holes in them. But if I hover around that, I've now got a handwritten title slide, and if I want to regroup that, Object, Group. So that's one example of using image trace. I'll repeat that, but with a picture. Again, it's much the same. I'm going to go File, Place. On the desktop I have this hand-drawn picture of a flower. That could be anything. Black and white images work really well, or at least a high contrast image. So again, I've placed my image. I'm going to choose image trace, and I've got a whole lot of options. I showed black and white before. If I was to pick one of these options, say like 6 colors, it'll probably give me far too many. So I'm just choosing this to show you. The background has various different gray choices, and the flower is just one red one. So I can also chop and change and see what happens if I reduce my colors. Be careful with some options like high fidelity photo. That makes your image file size massive. Other options might be shades of gray, sketched art. So that one there looks quite good for this particular option. I'm going to choose expand, and then again I want to get rid of this funny shadow, so I will need to ungroup. I've got the button option here, ungroup, and I'm going to click that option, click delete. Highlight around that flower, and I can see that's everything I want, and then I might then expand that. The option for expand's already been used, so I can come over here and regroup. So I've got a hand-drawn picture that I have taken a photo and I have essentially captured it.